Well, the first and foremost thing to look for in barrels is the tuning aspect. Now, you're going to know which groups that you're playing with, whether it's a band that tends to play 442, or an orchestra that's well disciplined, or some other chamber group that's very well disciplined that'll play down to 444. The tuning is the main thing. Now, what governs the tuning? Well, obviously, we said the length of the barrel governs the tuning, but also the diameter of the bore determines the tuning to a certain degree. You don't really have to know the specifics of dimensions and stuff, but you need to check the tuning very conscientiously with a tuner. Don't just guess, and don't let the sound of something appeal to you so that you take it and then you find out later that you can't play in tune with it, or you have a lot of problems with it. So don't let that happen. Make sure that the bottom line is tuning. I remember years ago when I visited Harold Wright backstage after a performance with the Boston Symphony, and I was a wide-eyed master's candidate at Yale, and I went back and I asked him several different questions, and I asked him, well, Mr. Wright, what do you look for in a mouthpiece? And as you know, a young clarinetist, you expect something romantic, something inspiring and stuff. Well, what did he say? He said tuning. The mouthpiece has got to play in tune. You know, of all the things I thought about before I spoke with him, tuning would have been the last thing I would ever look for in the mouthpiece. I would look for something of the Holy Grail in it, but not something as boring and mundane and everyday prosaic as tuning. But that was his criteria, and my own experience over the years has borne out the wisdom of his answer. So barrels are no different. You have to look for tuning. Now, the bore itself, you don't have to know much about, but one thing you should know about the bore, and this has to do with materials to a certain degree, is that the biggest influence over tuning and resistance to a big effect in tuning is stability of the bore dimensions. Now, there are lots of barrels that are out there that are made of exotic woods, and there's nothing wrong with exotic woods. They can contribute sometimes nice things to the sound. But one of the big problems with exotic woods is that the materials are very unstable. They crack easily, and they're very porous. Now, when I was designing clarinets at LeBlanc, we were thinking about building a clarinet in rosewood, and I went to Paul Laubin in New York, who's the oboe maker, and I knew he had made oboes in many different exotic kinds of materials. So I really wanted to question him very much about what his experience had been. And he was wonderful and very generous to me in terms of the information he shared with me that day. And I'll never forget that. I've visited him before, and he's a dedicated craftsman and a person I respect a great deal, and is also very generous and interested in sharing good information so everyone can make things better. But he told me that the exotic woods cracked very, very easily, and that the only way they could make oboes that would really work and not just self-destruct is they had to line the bores in hard rubber, and he showed me how they did that, like a bassoon wing joint is lined. So anyway, he showed me how they did that, and he was saying to me that at least the upper half of a rosewood clarinet, the upper half of the left hand, would have to be lined in hard rubber to prevent cracking and get any kind of stability to keep the clarinet from opening up and being kind of useless. And what's true for the upper joint of the clarinet is true a fortiori for the barrel. And in case you guys aren't into Latin or anything, that means it's even more so true for the barrel, that the bore has got to be really, really stable. And the bore of the barrel, of course, is just saturated with moisture, and then dry, wet, dry, wet, dry, wet. So the bore will move like an accordion. Even grenadilla wood moves a whole heck of a lot. Now, my barrels are made out of hard rubber, pure natural hard rubber, so that's a natural substance, but bore stability is like a rock, and it doesn't change from winter to summer, and it doesn't crack. So that's one of the big advantages of having a non-porous wood material. I won't say a non-natural material, because hard rubber is certainly natural. But barrels have been made from all kinds of different materials. So let's talk a little bit about that. But the point here is simply this, that if you're going to look for to select a barrel and you want that barrel to be the same in December as it is in May, then I would suggest very much that you get a barrel that's going to have some stability in the bore, because these exotic materials, there's a reason that clarinets were not made for them in the first place, and that is because they're very, very unstable. And that's a reason. There was a reason that those materials were deserted by clarinet makers when they found grenadilla wood, which is not as ideally stable, say, as natural hard rubber or other materials, but it's a whole heck of a lot more stable than cocobolo wood or rosewood or boxwood or the other woods that clarinets were made from. Now, in regard to materials on barrels, I really don't have anything new to offer at all than what I offered about clarinet mouthpieces. We all know that very good barrels have been made in all kinds of different materials, even things like materials like Delrin. We've seen barrels made of aluminum, like the DEG barrels, the ones that look like a heating coil. And then, of course, hard rubber has always been a wonderful material for making barrels and making clarinets, as far as that goes. Then you have the various and sundry woods. And the thing these materials have, the effect these materials have is a lot like the effect that mouthpiece materials have, is they have an objective effect according to the very substance they are, but then all those objective effects can be mitigated, can be changed around and used to advantage by intelligent design. Generally speaking, if a material tends to be on the brighter side, then you add more mass to it, or you proportion it in such a way that that it counterbalances that brightness, so that you get a very acceptable sound, but still good ringing response, and so on. All these things, just saying that a substance is what it is, doesn't necessarily make it the sine qua non for building clarinets or for making barrels, and it doesn't make it the pariah for building clarinets and barrels. The thing that matters most is intelligent design, and that means knowing what the end use of that product is, and knowing what the characteristic of the material is in relationship to that, and knowing what cause and effect certain things in intelligent design bring to the table, so to speak, to make that product as good and as useful as possible for the purpose it was intended. Now, in terms of purposes, again, you must ask yourself exactly what you're looking for. Don't be foolish and think, I'm going to get the greatest barrel in the world and it's going to transform my playing and make me super good and win me this job or this girl or whatever. It's not going to happen, okay? What you want to look for is the right tool for the right job. You say, I'm playing in this group, I need this kind of sound, I need this kind of stability, I want this kind of shape in the sound, I need this kind of tuning, and you examine the barrel for all those things. Okay? You go through systematically and make a systematic chart, and you examine the barrel for all those things, and you ask yourself, is this barrel stable enough? Is it going to crack on me? Is it going to play the tuning level that I need to play? Does it have the characteristic tone? And so on. You have to really systematically do this, elsewise you're going to make a stupid purchase. You're going to pay a lot of money for something that's not adequate for you, and believe me, I've seen it over and over from customers, that they spend ridiculous amounts of money on things that don't work as well as the original equipment that they got. Don't be in the stupid category, okay? Really think about what you're doing, learn about what you're doing, and learn how to evaluate and test things, and you're going to be a lot better off. You'll have better equipment, and you'll have more money in your pocket. How do you like that? Okay, so let's see. As Forrest Gump says, that's all I have to say about that.